We got to air it out. Let's air it out. So we got to air it out. Let's air it out. So
how do you say that? Air it out? Air it out?
Air it out.
What is going on, football fans? Welcome to another edition of the Air It Out podcast presented by Inside the Hatches. My name is Juan Pablo Camargo, and I am joined in a StreamYard platform filled with football experts with me here today. I got Mr. Darius Riech to my left. I got the coach, Mr. Darren Braxton, over there, horizontal. I got Avery Collins right below me. What is up, you guys?
What up, man? How y'all doing? Y'all good?
What's going on, people? What's going on?
Oh, it's Thursday. You know the vibes. We back, man. Another episode.
You know, guys, it's been 2 weeks since football has ended with the Super Bowl. And I got to say, even though I do miss having every Thursday be a game day and me having my jersey picks come in, I'm a lot more relaxed and I have a lot more free time than I used to, you know, so much. And I've got to say, I've been enjoying the free time. It's given me clear of mind, but let's be honest. I just want the 2021 season to get over here. Am I right or am I being wrong here? Like, let me ask you guys, what on average do you do during the off season to try to kind of waste time, so to speak, until you get to football?
Well, I'm a sports fan, so I continue watching the NBA. I watch baseball. So I like all of them. I also tend to go out to the field, you know, get some work, throw with some guys, and just, you know, try to stay in shape. We're somewhat some semblance of a shape, you know, other than a circle. And that's about it, you know. I love the off season. I love the draft and the combine and all that stuff. So
yeah, for me it's kind of the same. You know, when football season's over, basketball season is actually, you know, starting to get really good. Obviously the NBA trade deadline is coming up, so you know who's gonna get moved. I love that. But you know, I try to read any type of like articles that may break on ESPN or NFL.com of like rumored players that may be moved. Obviously, I'm a Patriots fan, so I follow a lot of Patriot diehard fans on Instagram and Twitter. So I'm just, you know, I'll read their thoughts and different things like that. But you know, I try to watch other sports while we patiently wait for football to come back.
I'm cool either way, honestly. Like, football is it for me, but I watch a little bit of basketball here and there. That's about it. I'm cool over everything else. Yeah, I'm not too excited right now. It's just basketball for me. I'm sorry. Like,
I have the same attitude, Coach. I have the exact same attitude. All the other sports don't really fulfill me as much as football does, I have to say. Basketball doesn't get any more interesting until the final 2 minutes of the game. Baseball is too long to even want to stick around for the full 9 innings. And hockey, as action-packed as it is just soccer on ice. So,
say this.
Wow, that's a bold statement. I never even thought about it like that, but you're right. You may be on to something.
It is. No, it is. But the one thing I will say, it's always nice to watch and see Steph Curry from half court.
That's very fair. That's very fair.
Game time.
I guess, like, since you guys are more the NBA heads than I am right now, I have been keeping up a little bit with NBA news. So I'll ask real quick, who's the front runner this year for MVP? I've heard it's Joel Embiid.
It's been a mixture of from what I've heard. People are saying Joel Embiid, but I'm like, okay, he keeps getting hurt. Some people are saying Giannis again, just because of what he's doing with the Bucks. Some people are saying Luka Doncic because he's starting to come on, but he started slow. Some people are saying Nikola Jokic because he's been on a tear since the beginning of the season. And then obviously some people are saying Steph. So, I mean, and some people are saying James Harden, but if you say James Harden, I don't get it because when you play next to Kyrie and KD, you're going to put up numbers, but whatever.
People aren't. My bad, Darren, but people aren't saying Steph like they should. Like, Steph is averaging almost 30 points a game. Another MVP candidate we should be talking about is Bradley Beal. I mean, the man leads the league in points, and we cannot forget LeBron James. This man is 36 years old and averaging like 25, 8, and 7. He's playing on a tear. So
I can't give it to Bradley Beal only because it's not translating to wins. I mean, he's putting up points.
That's true. That's true.
But it's not translating to wins. LeBron, of course, he's playing phenomenal. But at this point in his career, now that AD's gone, for a couple of weeks, now we can see is LeBron, going to be able to carry that team, and that I think will boost his chances to potentially win MVP. But as of right now, again, guys like James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, LeBron, when you play with guys like that, it's like you better be putting up numbers. Steph, he's putting up numbers with,
nobody
on his roster right now is Kelly Oubre.
Dribbling it out.
And so it's like I don't know, but they're winning. So it's just like but we'll see.
Darren, you get a final word before we move in.
Let's really be honest, people. Everybody says Steph is done. Steph ain't doing it without his homie Clay. No will Draymond help this year. Steph is still cooking them. He really came back and was like, you know what? Y'all must have thought I was like going to retire.
Y'all must have forgot.
Y'all disrespected my name.
One half of the Splash Bros.
Hold my drink. Hold my drink. That's all that was this year.
Y'all must have forgot.
For me, Steph Curry's the one guy on the Warriors I could never hate because he wasn't like the kind of personality that made you want to hate him. Like Kevin Durant, was Kevin Durant on that Warriors team. Snake. Klay Thompson, he always had kind of like that swagger bad boy personality, which was fine. And Draymond Green always had the mouth running. Always had that mouth running.
But he could back it up.
He could back it up too.
He does all the dirty work. That he does the stuff that you really won't see in a stat sheet. Like he does a lot of that, and it's crazy because he gets talked about. Yeah, he's not gonna put up 30 points a game, but he's gonna give you 16 assists, 12 rebounds, 5 steals, and maybe like 4 blocks and all that other stuff. So,
like I said, I'm not really the basketball guy, but when it came to personalities, Steph was always my guy. But look, we're not rebranding to the Dribble It Out podcast. That's not who we are, frankly. I'm not wearing a basketball jersey right now, am I? I'm wearing a football jersey. And that's what we're going to be talking about today as we dive into today's news rundown. And first thing on the list here today, and the NFL salary cap has a new floor. NFL Network's Mike Garafolo reported that the NFL salary cap floor has increased from $175 million to $180 million following talks with the NFLPA. Per sources informed of the situation, it doesn't mean that this is the official salary cap for 2021, as the league has to go over financial revenue figures and other audit and accounting adjustments in order to have a final salary cap in place. At the very least, the new floor gives clubs a starting point to begin making plans ahead of the new league year, which opens March 17th of 2021, of course. Moving on to our second bit of news here today, the Steelers on Wednesday during a press conference with reporters, Steelers general manager Kevin Colbert had every opportunity to say that Pittsburgh is committed to Big Ben for the 2021 season, but instead he said, and I'll quote here, guys, "As we sit here today, Ben is a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He reiterated to us that he wants to continue to play. We told him we have to look at the current situation now." The Steelers had made it very abundantly clear to Roethlisberger that he would not be allowed to return without a contract restructure, which Big Ben said he's willing to do. But under his current contract, he has $41.25 million of a cap hit against Pittsburgh. The Steelers are currently $30 million over the cap. Roethlisberger has a $15 million roster bonus on the horizon that would be paid if he's still on the team by March 19th. Many have compared Colbert's response to that of Rams GM Les Snead when talking about the future of Jared Goff right before he was traded to Detroit from Matt Stafford. So could we be seeing a Big Ben trade over the horizon? That might be something we might discuss later in the show. Little hint right there. And finally, just a little bit of Atlanta Falcons news for the former birthday boy from last week, Mr. Avery Collins. Atlanta is looking to start a mini rebuild in 2021, and the first cuts have already been made, as the team announced on Thursday that safety Ricardo Allen, quarterback Kurt Benkert, and defensive end Alan Bailey were released today. Cutting Allen and Bailey sheds $10.75 million in salary from the Falcons salary cap, with $3.75 in dead money. Atlanta is currently projected to be over the salary cap, And a little bit about Ricardo Allen, a former fifth-round pick from 2014. He started 76 games for the Falcons, recorded 340 tackles, 11 picks, and a sack over the past 6 seasons after spending his rookie campaign on the practice squad. The 4-time team captain, Allen was a strong voice in Atlanta's locker room, even being named Atlanta's 2019 Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. The 29-year-old safety had 25 tackles and 2 picks in 12 games played here in 2020. And that will wrap up, gentlemen, today's rundown. I'm going to give the floor over to Darius first, because this Big Ben news is pretty complicated. Look, he's 38 years old. He's about to make $41 million if he's not going to restructure. What is the plan of action going forward for the Steelers?
I think the plan of action is I don't see Big Ben getting traded. I don't think the Steelers are going to trade him, and I don't really think a team is going to trade for Big Ben just because of his age and how his season kind of ended. We saw in the first couple of weeks he was playing really well. Obviously, we had him talking about potentially an MVP type candidate, and then towards the end of the season we saw him to kind of regress. But I think what it ultimately come down to, man, I know how Patriots fans, we know how it feels to see our franchise quarterback play for another team after, leaving in free agency. I don't think it's going to be that same situation. I think it's just going to come down to, both sides coming to an agreement as far as the restructure of his contract, because he's taking up most of their salary cap, and they do have a lot of free agents that they have to target, that they possibly could target. We know Juju's going to be a free agent, Bud Dupree. Then TJ Watt next season, he's going to have to get extended. So they have a lot of questions in the next year or so. But I definitely think Big Ben will be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into next season. It's just going to be a little game of cat and mouse. That's how I see how this is going to play out.
Well, we let him. The future of a quarterback in jeopardy there in Pittsburgh, but the future of a DB in Atlanta all but set, as well as another quarterback and a defensive end. Avery, as a Falcons fan, do you approve or disapprove of the cuts, especially when it came to Ricardo Allen?
Allen Bailey and Kurt. Not too mad about Allen came in this year, so there's no real strong ties with him. Same thing with Kirk. But Ricardo Allen, man, that hurts. 7-year vet. I mean, I remember when he got drafted. I remember him getting cut. I remember him getting brought back. I remember all of those things. And I remember saying, this guy's going to be one of my favorite players, simply because of his work ethic and just his attitude about how he went about going to preparing for a football game. And I just remembered that his attitude was, let's build men more than we care about wins. And for me, like locker room guys like that, you can't really get past that. You can't really replace that. I think the locker room is going to miss him. His production on the field, he wasn't somebody who was ever considered top tier in his career, but you saw his IQ. I'm reminded of one of my favorite plays, or two of my favorite plays today. One was, I believe they were getting ready to play, I think they were playing the Jaguars or something like that. And I remember right before the play, Ricardo Allen runs up to Deion Jones and taps on the shoulder and tells him to move over. And they ran right to the gap. Like literally, as soon as he tapped the shoulder and he moved over, they snapped the ball. They ran right to that gap, and Deion Jones made the play. And a lot of people didn't know that play was made because of Ricardo Allen telling him, hey, this is what's going to happen. And then another time against the Eagles when he went to Desmond Trufant, and right before the play, he said, don't cover Nelson Aguilar. I've got him. And so I was like, what? Because nobody covered Nelson Aguilar. He runs a skinny post to the end zone, catches the football. And I was like, Ricardo, what? But as soon as he caught the football, Ricardo came through and destroyed him. And he dropped the football in the end zone. And I was like, that's why you told him. He's like, I know exactly what they're doing. He thinks he's going to catch it. I'm getting that ball out. And it was just, again, a testament to his IQ. Smaller guy. I think he was listed as like 5'9", maybe $190. But he had the toughness of somebody 220 pounds. And so I loved it. I loved his play. I loved his attitude. and him as a man in general was just, like I said, something that just I don't think they're going to be able to replace in their locker room.
Really quick landing spots for Ricardo Allen. A good team fit that you think, just one spot.
I mean, there's a couple different places. I mean, that if you need a veteran safety who can cover the back end, I would say number one, I would say would be Cleveland. I think Cleveland would be a great spot for him with Denzel Ward on the back end. I think that would be a great spot for him. Another spot that would be pretty good for him. I could see the Colts, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit. But I think if they shore up that again, another part of this secondary, that would be a great team for them. I think the Eagles will be a good team for him to go to as well. I know there's talks about Jalen Mills going to safety, but why take a corner who hasn't played the position when you can go out and get a veteran who's proven that he can play in that system? And then last but not least, I hate to say it, but I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be a great fit for him as well, with Antoine Winfield being the strong safety, him being the free safety. I think those two guys could be a really, really good matchup there. And if the Raiders aren't sold, maybe the Raiders too.
And, all that's depending on what's going to happen with the salary cap going in 2021. Darren, we're not salary cap experts. I'm pretty sure none of us here have an accounting degree. But I will ask, what do you think of how the NFL is handling this cap situation? Do you think there's going to be it's higher than a lot of us expect it to be, or is there going to be a significant drop in revenue for these teams to spend in this season?
Well, as you can already tell, 180 is not that high, especially when the NFL cap has risen the last few years and has been rising at an astronomical rate a day. Yes, it's basically been rising at a #350 rate. So when you think about it, the 180 is their best bet to continue to let the NFL grow and have teams actually make moves, but the best way for them also to cover themselves with this COVID year. So this is kind of just where we're at with it. They definitely have done the best they can, but it's only but so much you can do when revenue is not coming in as much as it used to.
Currently, the top three teams with salary cap space are the Jaguars at 77.5, the Colts at 68.3, and the Jets at 67.9. What's up, Avery, before we move on?
Just wanted to point out another two teams. The Chiefs would be a good team for Ricardo Allen with Tyrann Mathieu because he likes to play in the box, and Rico likes to play on the back end. And then Darius mentioned the Dolphins as well. With those corners, I mean, you put in a veteran safety who can cover the back end. You don't have to worry about that portion of the football as far as your DBs, because now you can. I mean, that's something that I think the Dolphins would that might be
they're gonna probably jump on him ASAP. They're definitely going to give him a chance. So.
Big safety help for a lot of teams that you can never have too much DB help over on the back end. So that'd be interesting to see. But we're jumping off the DB talk for a bit, and then we're going on to the QB talk for a bit. And of course, we're jumping into the biggest news of the day, gentlemen. Carson Wentz, the quarterback for not the Philadelphia Eagles, but for the Indianapolis Colts, according to Adam Schefter, Wentz was traded over to Indianapolis for a third-round pick in 2021 and a conditional second-round pick in 2022. Should Carson perform well as a Colt, it could turn into a first-round pick. Now, there's a lot of stipulation that comes with this trade. Of course, the fact that Philly has to take a huge dead cap hit, the largest ever in NFL history, apparently $35 million in a dead cap hit, and he gets Carson at a relative bargain contract-wise, only $25 million a year having to be paid to the former number 2 overall pick. Meanwhile, with the Philadelphia Eagles, a bunch of questions are arising as to what they're going to do with the quarterback position over there. Could you keep Jalen Hurts? Could you draft Justin Fields? Could you try to get into the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes? The questions are abound. The drama is tasty and Philly. And, of course, our producer, Jerome Jones, thinks that the one person that should have been let go is actually still there to stay in Howie Roseman. And, guys, it's a frenzy story to tackle. It's a lot to talk about. But I'm going to throw it over to the coach first to address, then Avery, and then Darius. So, have at it.
I'm sorry. I've been holding that laughing all day just for this show because let's be honest, y'all. This trade is hilarious. Carson Wentz, a third and a possible first. Possible? You couldn't even get a guaranteed first? Come on, Eagles. I don't really know what's going on anymore, but Jerome, I'm finally with you. Fire Howie. It needs to happen. That's worse than the DeAndre. Yeah, it's worse than DeAndre Hopkins trade. I'm sorry. It is. You get a third this year and a possible first for a guy that's supposed to be a franchise quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is only a wide receiver. Yes, he's one of the best in the business at it, but he went for a 2 in Dave Johnson. Dave Johnson at least is better than a possible for me. I'm sorry. I can't do it. So let's be honest. Carson Wentz going to Indy, it helps him, helps the Eagles somewhat, but the trade overall, it was bad for the Eagles. It was just bad, like all around. There's no trying to make it sound good, make it sound nice. Yeah.
It was a shock.
It's just shocking, people. Just shocking.
Avery, when it comes to team building, you know, when Wentz was over in Philadelphia, it wasn't exactly the greatest roster, but heading over into Indianapolis, had the excuses run out for Carson Wentz with regards to to being a franchise quarterback?
No, not at all. I mean, I believe he still has the capability to be a franchise quarterback. We've said it before. I think, you know, a change of scenery is going to help him. If I'm the Colts, the first person I'm calling is Peyton Manning. I'm saying, hey, bro, we might want to hire you as QB coach. What do you think? Or, hey, can you at least just come in, just speak to him for a little bit and just maybe mentor him for a moment or something like that, right? I mean, because that's what I would do. I would say, listen, I want you to sit down with arguably the greatest quarterback of all time and just pick his brain or whatever the situation is. I think, you know, as far as the trade goes, I think people are blowing it a little bit out of proportion. The Colts are in prime position to make the playoffs. As long as they make the playoffs, they get a first-round pick, right? The Eagles are going to get a first-round pick. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't mean it means it's not an extremely high first-round pick because they made the playoffs, but they still make the playoffs, right? So that's number one. Number two, they still get the first-round pick. Number two, I think people forget that Eagles don't have a lot of holes. That team isn't missing too many pieces. They're not a team that needs to go through a rebuild right now. Defensively, their front four is still pretty solid. You still got Fletcher Cox. You still got guys like Vinny Curry. You still got Brandon Graham. Your front four is not terrible. Your running back situation, as long as Miles Sanders stays healthy, you're good there. I think your offensive line isn't horrific. They were just extremely injured last year. I think if they can get back healthy and straighten things up on the back end and get themselves a consistent running game and do what everybody in Philadelphia wants, get us some receivers, I think that they can be a team to be reckoned with in the NFC East. So I don't think it's a situation where they needed an extreme haul for Carson Wentz, especially seeing as, because here's the thing, Eagles fans, they crack me up in this sense.
Like this one?
Some have been saying Carson is trash, he's washed, he's old, yada, yada, yada. So if you're saying that, what makes you think he's worth a first-round pick to any GM? If y'all are saying it, but then y'all get mad when you don't get a first for him. That doesn't make sense. You just said he was trash. You are letting everybody know he's not worth a first-round pick because of his play, because of this, because of that. So now when you don't get a first-round pick, oh, man, Carson's worth more than a first round. Remember 2017? What are we talking about, right? And so I think it's strange to me in that regard. But like I said, I mean, to Jerome's point, he's saying that the roster's trash. I don't think the roster's trash. I think the roster has holes, but like I said, I don't think it has enough holes for them to go through a rebuild. I think they've got some key pieces that they can still work with and be formidable in the NFC. They just got to do it. The
fact of the matter is that the Howie Roseman, like when building this team, has not done an exactly great job of building around his players, specifically around Carson. The receiving weapons weren't always there, and even though the offensive line held out as best as it could, injuries and age whittled it down to being inefficient, to say the least. But I will say there was this one particular stat I found pretty interesting, was that the Eagles' offensive line were top 5 in pass blocking rate, which means they were a top 5 pass blocking unit. Yet they gave up probably the most sacks in the entire league. How much can you contribute that to the fault of the offensive line versus Carson and Jalen Hurts? And with that
Carson
being said,
holding the ball too long.
that too. And with
That's why you get Peyton Manning in to come talk to him and say, bruh, get the ball up out your hands, man. Live to see another down. That's one of Peyton's biggest things. Live to see another down. You saw him win a Super Bowl by living to see another down. I mean, there were so many checkdowns. I mean, if we did a statistical check, that Super Bowl, Peyton probably had the most checkdowns by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. It was ridiculous.
And with Carson going to Indianapolis, he has legitimately the number 1 offensive line in the NFL. He's got some decent receiving weapons and Michael Pittman to work with, a good running game with Jonathan Taylor on the back end, and a defense that was top 5 into going last year. I can honestly say the excuses for Carson Wentz not having enough weapons or not having good protection are over. It is finally time for him to perform at the level that he was performing at in 2019 when he didn't have a single receiver go over 500 yards.
I'll address that later.
And with that being said, I want to throw it over to Darius to ask, what are the Eagles going to do about the quarterback situation?
I mean, listen, it's a reason why they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. They obviously believe in him. They saw something in him. And if you take him in the second round, you probably feel like, hey, this is our guy. The only weird thing about the whole situation is you sign Carson Wentz to this big contract extension, and then you get rid of him, and then you draft the quarterback. You ruin his confidence. But I think the Eagles, they believe that Jalen Hurts is the guy. I do think they're going to take another quarterback in the draft because, possibly if the Jalen Hurts situation doesn't work out, you possibly can get a 3rd or 4th round quarterback who may slip and fall throughout the boards. But I mean, it's cut and plain and simple. I mean, ESPN said it. Jalen Hurts is QB1. He's going to go out there. I believe it's later this month or next month. He's going to get some work in with some of his receivers. So he's taking the initiative as the leader, and he has in his mindset that this is my team now, and now I have to act like this is my team. But with the 6th pick, they have, what is it? The 6th pick that they have. Yeah, but the 6th pick, obviously it's a lot of, everyone wants them to draft a wide receiver. And I think if you get them a wide receiver, that offensive line comes back. Yes, they're getting a little bit old, but they still are one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Like Avery said, they don't have a lot of holes. Defensively, they're still pretty good. And offensively, you have a solid running game with Miles Sanders. You just got to run the ball. That's really it. Just run the ball, get a wide receiver 1, and they possibly – could be back in this and don't have to go through a whole rebuild stage. Like some of the Eagles fans are saying, we're going to be trash this year, next year. We're probably not even going to win 6 games. So, they're a few moves away from actually, being the favorites to win the NFC East.
And before I move on, I know that, Avery, you wanted to address a comment that Jerome put out, which was, who is a key player other than Slay, Cox, and maybe Miles still haven't have more than 20 carries in a game? So what do you want to address on that?
So I want to talk about that. So like I said, I think a lot of people are looking at rosters in the incorrect way, right? If you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chiefs, they're looking at those rosters, right? Stacked from top to bottom and yada, yada, yada. They're really not stacked from top to bottom. They just cover a lot of holes, right? Because they have so many skill players and different things like that. My point is the Eagles have enough to not have to rebuild. And so you've got a Fletcher Cox. Like I said, you've got a Brandon Graham, who is one of the most underrated players in the game, clearly because you didn't mention him, Jerome. You still have what is his, like I said, Jalen Hurts. And I know you don't believe in him, but Jalen Hurts, if you look at his numbers, playing in behind the same offensive line as Carson Wentz was that much better, right? You still got Miles Sanders, as you mentioned. You've got your tight end in Dallas Goedert, who's a really good tight end, who's just coming into his own. He had a really solid season last year, who's going to progressively get better. You've got veterans, like you said, on the back end in Slay. Goodness gracious, I just mentioned him as becoming one of the potential safeties.
Jalen Mills,
who I don't think is a top tier corner, but he's a vet, so there's not too much that he's going to see, right? And so that's what. So again, bump the injuries, right? We're talking about the roster, how it's constructed. Bump the injuries, bump all of that because you can't foresee an injury, right? Everybody said that. Matthew Stafford was injury prone. Now look at Matthew Stafford, right? Playing 16 games all the time, playing extremely well. We're like, what are we talking about? So there's possibility for these guys to not be injury prone, right? And because they're young, there's time for them to develop their bodies. Maybe they just needed to get their bodies acclimated to the NFL. Dallas Goedert is going into what, year 3? Miles Sanders as well. So yeah, like 3 or 4. So like they had to get acclimated. Now my main point is that you don't have to go through a rebuild with the Eagles. There are pieces.
It's not a rebuild.
All I'm saying is there are pieces, and because you have a first round 6th overall pick, because you're going to get another 3rd round pick, because of all of those different things, I think that you can fill some of those holes and be formidable. I'm not talking about being a Super Bowl contender right now. Obviously that's out of the question. But can you win the NFC East and make the playoffs? For certain.
Absolutely.
Especially because the NFC East is the NFC least, as it stands as it is right now. But we're moving out.
But he was always hurt.
But we're moving out from Eagles territory. We're going to another QB trouble land down south in Houston, specifically with the Texans. And guys, we've avoided talking about this topic for so long because we've had so much other things to talk about, so many other important factors to contribute into the NFL season. But it's time that we address the Deshaun Watson Houston Texans saga. And guys, we can trace it all the way back to when the Houston Texans hired Jack Easterbee, the director of player behavior, I think it was, over at his time with the New England Patriots, came in and started slowly working behind the scenes to trying to gain control over the franchise. First thing he did was he waited for Bill O'Brien to do what he had to do, which was, the trading away of DeAndre Hopkins for literally nothing, essentially, and deconstructing the roster in a way that was detrimental to Watson's productivity on the field, whether it was a 68% completion percentage, 4,823 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Literally MVP numbers put out by Deshaun Watson, resulting in a 4-12 season for the Houston Texans in 2020. And then after the season, the organization promised Watson that he would have a say in picking a new GM and picking a new head coach, only to revoke that from him and to go ahead and hire who they wanted for those positions, which was Nick Caserio, a former Patriot and friend of Jack Easterbee, and former Ravens assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, and passing coordinator David Culley, who had not had any head coaching experience before. Not to mention, Watson didn't even want him there. He wanted someone like Robert Saleh. He wanted someone like Eric Bieniemy, someone that could bring a change in culture, only for it not to happen. Right after the hire, Watson formally filed a trade request. Then Houston came out saying they were steadfast with moving Watson, saying that they are willing to wait it out and fine him if they have to in order to make sure he doesn't get traded away. And as of right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams are in serious contention to land Deshaun Watson if he ever becomes available for trade. It is the Miami Dolphins, the Chicago Bears, the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos, the Carolina Panthers, the Washington Football Team, and of course, my New York Jets. And guys, that's a little bit of the recap of how the saga's progressed, kind of giving you a TLDR. And, Darren, you left a little abruptly, so I want to give you the first word on it. What is going on in Houston? Is this a salvageable situation? And if not, I guess the only question I want to give you is, does Deshaun Watson have the right to be this angry?
Yeah, I don't even understand how that's a question, Juan. You got to understand, the disrespect sent to this man's way is unreal right now. I understand it's business, but this is a perfect example of a team saying one thing and then doing another. The guy said, hey, let me be a part of this personnel decision. Let me be a part of who's going to coach me and who's going to get the team around me. If I'm going to be a franchise guy, at least let me have somewhat of an input. You don't even have to grab the guy I want, but make it at least seem like you want to. And they did a horrible job at that. They had all the stats, and even when their stats said go with someone else, you get the guy you've always wanted. It makes no sense to me. And Watson has 100% reason to be angry right now.
Now remember, this is the organization whose former owners said that they didn't want the prisoners to run the prison, which was, I think it was Cal McNair, who was the former owner. Now his son is kind of adopting that philosophy, and a lot of people have pointed to the hiring of Jack Easterby for how detrimental or how much the organization has gone down. For Darius, you being a former Patriots guy, what can you tell us about how Jack Easterby has influenced the culture down in Houston, and what are we expecting long term for the Texans culture?
I mean, listen, to put it on a perspective, I think that he's going to do a great job. I think he's under, he's going to do a somewhat good job. He's under the Belichick tree. We know how, those guys from Belichick trees do. I think the only successful one that we've seen so far is Brian Flores, who, the Miami Dolphins last season. So far, in my opinion, that's really it.
No love.
Jack Easterby has no football experience. He is a player personnel guy. He doesn't handle actual football. He's a behavioral coach.
Listen,
he was the chaplain of the team. He was the religious leader of the team.
And
he has no football experience whatsoever.
And this is what's going to lead to my next point. I personally think that with this hiring, it's another game of cat and mouse. Like I said early on, I think the best thing for the Texans to do is trade Deshaun Watson. You don't have a first round pick. You don't have a second round pick. You got a guy who's arguably a top 5 quarterback in the league. You look at his stats last year. Why not trade him to a team and then you can draft your franchise quarterback? The Texans are in a rebuild stage no matter what. Look what they're doing. New GM, new head coach, new player personnel behavior. Like, you're starting brand new. And you have a guy who doesn't want to be there, he doesn't even trust you because he asked you to basically, hey, let me be a part of the decisions. Just like Russ said, let me be a part of the decision making, especially because I'm the franchise guy. You guys signed me to this big contract extension. Let me help with these decisions. And then what do they go do? Totally screw him over and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to do this. And now it's like, we want Deshaun Watson here. I don't think they want him here. I think it's a game of who's going to give us the best offer. And as much as I hate to say it, it's the Jets. The Jets have the best package for the trade to go through with the 2nd overall pick and the 23rd overall pick. And even if you want to throw Sam Darnold in there, they have the best package. And I think it's a landing spot for Deshaun Watson. He's going to be in a big market. We know how the New York market is, but you give him that Jets offense. Obviously, they could possibly draft a running back. Something that I think the Jets should do, especially that's something that they need. But like I said, man, Deshaun Watson, he's gone. It's just a matter of when at this point. I don't see him being a Houston Texans after March. If he's still there after March, then I'm gonna be very, very surprised.
And I'll point this over to Avery now. There's always been with the kind of guy that Deshaun Watson is. He's known for being very involved in his community, a locker room leader, and not someone that angers too quickly. But with the way that Houston has treated him, I guess the best way is, how much is it going to cost any team interested in Deshaun Watson to acquire him? What do you think his true value is in the trade market?
If Jared Goff is worth 2 first-round picks, I mean, that should give you some 3 first-round picks. I mean, that should give you some semblance of how much Deshaun Watson is. Let's keep it a bean. Deshaun Watson should have won 2 Super Bowls by now. Let's just keep it a bean. If they would have given him an offensive line, he's that good. I mean, we talk about the talent of Patrick Mahomes, the arm strength, this, and that. I see everything that Patrick Mahomes does, and I see Deshaun Watson do the same thing on a bigger scale, in my opinion, because he has lesser talent around him. So for me, if they would have built an offensive line, got him some defense, I mean, I think he wins 2 Super Bowls. We saw they got up. They got up. Nah, I'm thinking too. Only reason is because they got up big on the Chiefs that year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, right? You give them an offensive line and they can run the ball. Chiefs don't come back in that game because they don't get the ball enough. The reason they lost is because they kept getting off the field. Let's just keep it what it was, right?
Let's be honest. You switch to two. He got the two that Mahomes has. If you switch to two quarterbacks, Watson will have the same thing. That's
exactly my point. And so I feel I'm like Darius. Trade him, right? I mean, if you Houston, the smart thing to do would be to trade him to New York, right? You get the second row overall pick. Now you can draft Justin Fields, right? So if that's the type of quarterback you want, then you can draft a plethora of linemen around him. You can draft him some receivers because this receiving class is actually riddled with some really good receivers, which is overshadowed by the fact that Trevor Lawrence is coming out, and he's probably the highest toted quarterback in college history, if we're going to be honest. So I understand, but like I said, you got a plethora of receivers, so you can get yourself some receivers. You can build that defense. Like I said, you can go out and get yourself a veteran safety like a Ricardo Allen. You can do different things like that, right? And he's going to change the locker room. As far as the coach, I don't know if this holds any weight, but Brian Westbrook has been on record saying he's one of my favorite coaches, right? One of my favorite guys to be around. So if we're talking about, to your question that you asked, Darius, as far as the culture, he's clearly going to create a culture there that's going to be, I think, is good. Now, we question his coaching and everything like that, but as far as the culture, I think he's going to build a good culture. Now, if you're not going to trade away Deshaun Watson, which I think you should, but if you're not going to do it, you had better protect him. Protect Deshaun Watson. That's what I'm saying. As far as Jerome's constant comment on Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, I'm not a huge believer in Justin Fields, but I'm also not a huge believer in Zach Wilson. The only quarterback coming out right now is that I'm like, okay, now this guy, he's just proven that he's got the tools. Is Trevor Lawrence, right? But outside of that, I'm not a huge believer in either of those guys. I think they can have some success in the league. I wouldn't be surprised if they have success in the league because of the way they play and the way the quarterback position is trending. So I wouldn't be surprised. But Trevor Lawrence just looks like, he's the best quarterback coming out this year.
All right. Well, quick thing. Let's say the Texans do decide to trade him. I know Darius already said that the Jets were the landing spot. So just really quick, Avery and Darren, your landing spot for Deshaun Watson. Avery first.
Oh, okay. So outside of the Jets, I could see. Say it again.
Like the one landing spot, the one ideal landing spot.
The one ideal landing spot outside of the Jets.
Yeah,
that's tough, man. It's honestly between three for me, and they're all equal for different reasons. Denver, because if they continue to keep Von Miller and bring back, if they keep Denver and then keep Von Miller and then have Bradley Chubb, that defense is going to be phenomenal, right? They're going to be able to pressure the quarterback. It really doesn't matter who you got at corner there because you're not going to be able to just stand back there with those two guys coming off the edge, right? So I think Denver will be a great fit. The other one will be Chicago because of the same reasons. Their defense is really good. You got a back end with Fuller, and then you got Khalil Mack, who's still a force to be reckoned with. And then I'm going to be a homer. I think a great place would be Atlanta. The reason being is because they're going to build a team around him that's going to protect him because of the coach that they brought in. Arthur Smith is going to make sure that he builds an offensive line. That's the first thing. Just think about it. That's the first thing he's going to do. He's going to have weapons of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, and all of those different things. So I think that would be a great landing spot. And because I don't think that the NFC South does well with mobile quarterbacks. Just think about it. Cam Newton used to destroy every single team, right? Except for Atlanta, because we knew how to deal with a mobile quarterback. So I don't think NFC South teams know how to deal with mobile quarterbacks. You saw what Kyler Murray did to us. You saw what Patrick Mahomes did to us. You saw all these different things. So for me, I think one of those three teams would be a great fit for him.
I got a simple one. It's Miami. If they can somehow get Deshaun Watson and hold on to the number 3 overall pick this year,
that's why it's not going to happen. Like that,
you got to give up that pick. You have to. That's the only way you get it.
Here's the point, though, because this is Houston we're talking about. And remember what they traded away.
But they don't have Joe Bryan no more. They don't have Joe
Bryan no more. But they have Jack Easterbee instead.
They have
might be a little bit smarter.
They have multiple first rounders this year. They have multiple second rounders this year. And they have, I believe, 2 first rounders next year. So they have enough picks to still adequately give the Texans rebuilding capital.
But they want something now. You want something now for that guy.
No, because if you're letting go of Deshaun Watson, you're clearly in a rebuild. I mean, letting go of J.J. Watt is one thing. Letting go of Deshaun Watson, you're clearly going into rebuild.
Exactly. So
you need that pick.
Hey, listen, best case scenario, Deshaun Watson goes there, they get Tua, and they get the 18th overall pick. Along with the 2 seconds this year and the first for next year.
If you include Tua in there, it's a different story because now you give him a quarterback. Now it's like, okay, and then they have 2 second-round picks.
Deshaun Watson on the same team. I'm sorry, this is not going to work. You can't do it. You can't. Tua was made out to be the guy, and I would rather see him get traded than get put into a Josh Rosen situation.
Fair point. That's a very fair point to make. And all good landing spots. It's just so hard to fathom someone as big of a star as Deshaun Watson forcing himself out of the organization because of incompetence at the highest level, because of pride, and because of just overall sloppiness in Houston.
One question, because I think people forget how good Deshaun Watson is. So one question. And it's going to be multiple teams, but it's one question. Does Deshaun, and I just want a yes or no from each of you. Does Deshaun Watson win the Super Bowl this year if he's on the Colts?
Nope.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes. Number two. Does Deshaun Watson win the Super Bowl if he's on the Chiefs?
Yes.
Yes.
Number 3. Does Deshaun Watson win the Super Bowl if he's on the Bucs?
Yes.
Yes.
Number 4. Does Deshaun Watson win the Super Bowl if he's on the Packers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does Deshaun Watson win the Super Bowl if he's on the Saints?
Yeah.
He's that good. I'm listening.
No, that's a yes.
Saints a little
good, man.
Nah.
That all the same for Drew Brees, Dave.
Last one. And this one's a little tougher, but I think potentially could. Does Deshaun Watson win the Super Bowl if he's on the Bills?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say so.
No.
Yes.
I don't think so.
A defense.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
The reason I would say I'm not sure is because Jerome.
That's a resounding no for me.
The only reason I'm questioning on the Bills is because they out of the teams I named, they have the worst running game.
That's fair.
Yes.
Well, the Bills have a chance to rebuild that team in free agency going forward into it, which brings us to our final tip, the final topic of the day, which is big names in big places. And guys, look, this offseason might be a little unprecedented with regards to the salary cap, with regards to now huge stars, even quarterbacks being traded away, despite the huge contracts that they're under. So anyone is tradable at any time outside of maybe Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. So there's a huge list of names to go through just on free agents alone. All right, I got Marcus Mariota, Larry Fitzgerald, Marcus May, Patrick Peterson, Matthew Judon, AJ Green, Allen Robinson, Von Miller, Dak Prescott, J.J. Watt, Leonard Williams, Kawan Short, Melvin Ingram, Bud Dupree, Shaquille Barrett, Brandon Sheriff, T.Y. Hilton, A.J. Bouye, Jadeveon Clowney, Yannick Ngakoue, Justin Simmons, Hunter Henry, Levante David, Leonard Floyd, Richard Sherman, Avery Williamson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that's just scratching the surface. These aren't even all the big names that were on the board that are available in free agency this year. We're also forgetting possible trade players that could be on their way out. We're even forgetting some guys that are just forcing their way out through trade. So there a lot of big names could be in a lot of different places coming into 2021. I want to know, who do you guys have going to a different place going into 2021. I'll throw it over to Darius first. You're muted, man.
All right. It's a couple, man, but I think before I get into it, I think this offseason is probably going to be the most interesting and exciting offseason as far as free agents, signings, and trades. I think, Juan, you said it best. No one's like untouchable. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of potential players where they're going to get traded, and you're probably like, I would have never thought. But JJ Watt, I think obviously he's going to find a new home. His first time being a free agent, he's going to have fun. He's going to have that Tom Brady experiment where he's going to have fun with it. He's probably going to troll a little bit. He's going to enjoy this, and he's going to sign with a new team. Allen Robinson, I think he's going to leave Chicago. I think it's going to come down to whoever's going to give him the most money and who's going to be throwing him the football. I think Chris Godwin too. I think his asking price the Bucs won't be able to afford, and if they do, they're not going to be able to bring back all those free agents. Ndamukong Suh, Leonard Fournette. They have a lot of pending free agents. It's going to be very hard for them to bring back Marcus Mariota. A surprise or two, I think Larry Fitzgerald was going to go to a different team, and I think he's going to have one of those leadership mentor roles on another team. I definitely think he's going to – I think he's going to leave Arizona. Hot take, he's leaving Arizona. He's going to leave Arizona.
He'll retire before he leaves Arizona.
I think he's going to – listen, I think Brady was going to leave and he left, so I think he's going to leave.
Yeah, but that's Brady.
I was gonna say, literally, this dude has spent 18 years in this.
Listen,
wait,
they don't want him. If they don't want him back, and he's still,
but he's more.
Play,
I was gonna say, but he's more invested into his community than Brady was in Boston.
Brady hated Boston.
If he wants to play, right? If he wants to play, and they're like, you know what, we don't want you no more. You know, what is he? He's not gonna retire.
He'll retire.
He's gonna go out and play.
He'll retire. Eli said the same thing. I want to keep playing and retire.
All right. Jameis Winston, I definitely think he's going to be under center for a new team. I don't think he's going to be the Saints starting quarterback in 2021. But those are just a few. Also, too, Von Miller. I definitely think the Denver Broncos are going to let Von Miller go. Either they're going to try to trade him. If they can't trade him, they're going to release him just because of his injury history the last 2 years. Even though he literally carried that Broncos team to the Super Bowl.
Von carries a $22 million a year contract, and especially for an aging linebacker, is that worth the market? We'll see.
That's what I said. Trade or cut.
Darren, what like your any free agents or any trade or any potential traded players you see or you feel are going to be in new places?
So I got one that's really good, honestly. Prescott to the Bears. Prescott to the Bears. And not at the free agent signing, but a trade.
Signing trade?
A signing trade.
That's the only possible.
Trade.
Guys, this isn't the NBA. There's no such thing as a sign and trade.
Listen, franchise tag Dak Prescott. He goes to the Bears. And the Bears get back the Cowboys get back one of the Bears' defensive players in Akeem Hicks. Defensive lineman. Yes. And a first-round pick. The Bears need a quarterback bad. They're already in the market for Deshaun Watson. And they want someone that's proven because of how that Bears defense is set up. It's made to win now, people.
I will say this, Darren. I don't think Dak is going to stay in Dallas. So I think it's possible that he may just sign to Chicago, but I think Dak is done in Dallas. That's my honest opinion. Unless they franchise tag him again.
Also, guys, enough with the sign and trade things. This isn't the NBA. That's not how it works.
Listen, sign and trade, Dak Prescott to the Bears. And Adam Thielen for a first-round pick to the Miami Dolphins. Watson goes there. Thielen's going to be his new number one.
A first round?
Yo, what did you drink today?
Hey, and I'm going to explain why. Dolphins need a number two or a number one wideout to go ahead and partner with Devontae Parker. You go ahead and get Deshaun Watson. You give him Adam Thielen. Yes, you're paying a premium for the guy who's not, honestly, in my opinion, worth a first-round pick. But the Vikings are going to want ample compensation for him. They have Justin Jefferson, so they're going to be willing to let him go. And with the upcoming wide receiver class being what it is, they feel as though they can most likely get someone to replace him or do just as much as he has done with lower cap hit. because the Vikings need the cap space.
So why would you?
That's the main issue.
Why do you think if you know that, you don't think other GMs know that? They're like, man, like you're for a second or a third. Stop playing.
I don't know.
Listen, some people, man, some people go for it. But I'm telling you,
you're not getting a first for Adam Thielen.
They're going to ask. They're going to ask. That's going to be the first.
They're going to ask, of course, but they're not going to budge.
Of course. Now
I'm gonna ask.
Now let's go here, man. Bump where everybody's going. Talking about the Falcons. All right. Bump where everybody else go. All right. Here's some players that I want. Okay. I don't know how we're gonna do it because we're our cap is really, really bad. I don't know how we're gonna do it. But if we don't get at least one of these players, I'm gonna be tight. Leonard Williams, Von Miller, J.J. Watt, I guess Patrick Peterson.
So if you don't get a good defender, you're just going to be pissed.
And Ndamukong, exactly. Offense is not the problem. I don't care. You got Julio Jones, Hayden Hurst, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, all these other – I don't care. None of that.
So they all getting signed to the veteran minimum or something. That's what I'm hearing.
Ain't
no way out for the all.
Like I said, I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's what I'm saying.
Oh, man. Oh, okay. Well, look. I don't even know what to say here. It's just so funny. There's only one situation. There's a couple situations I'm interested in, and it's three of them in particular. It's first off, it's Justin Simmons, who I think is one of the most underrated safeties in the NFL, a key Denver Bronco leader up in there, especially not only just in the locker room, but in the community, as he stepped up in 2020 during the whole BLM protests that were happening nationwide. So I'll be interested to see where he goes. Particularly, I think he could have a shot of replacing Ricardo Allen down in Atlanta, if possible. He comes down there. There's a possibility he could go to Kansas City, maybe even join forces down in Miami to form a new Legion of Boom with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. I'd be really interested in seeing that. The other one, Yannick Ngakoue. The guy's been traded to two teams, one from Jacksonville to Minnesota, then from Minnesota to Baltimore. Now, where could he go is what I'd like to know, because he's only 26 years old. The guy's still a premier pass rusher, and he's going to be demanding some good money, but I don't think Atlanta's going to be the one to land it, Avery. It'll actually be somewhere along the lines of maybe if they can finesse it just enough. I would have to say, to replace a guy like Shaq Barrett, I would say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be a good landing spot for Yannick Ngakoue. All right, he's ideal. He's young, and he won't be able to demand that much money because he hasn't had that much of production over the past year, especially given that he was traded twice. And then finally, Allen Robinson to the Jets when they get Deshaun Watson for 5 first-round picks when they trade Sam.
Well, time to go.
Right.
Time to go.
Wait, he said 5? Wait, he said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
he said 5.
I said 5.
I don't think you do 5. I think you do 3 and Sam. I think you do 3 and
Sam won't be enough to post it.
Bring Sam to New England.
And plus, I think what happens is I'll agree with what Darius said. Is that with Jameis Winston not being down in New Orleans, they're going to need a potential replacement. And who do you want more than a 24-year-old guy with potential?
Bring him to
Jameis Winston to the Bears. You heard it.
Ooh, hot take.
Well, guys, look, if y'all have more hot takes before we wrap up here today.
Nah, Avery hit it right on the head. Their color situation. Winston to the Bears.
I don't really think it's a hot take, but I think Justin Simmons will be the highest paid safety once free agency starts. Someone's going to, if Denver doesn't open the bag, a team like possibly the Jets or Jacksonville, who has the cap space,
they're going
to make him the highest paid safety.
If Marcus May doesn't re-sign, then yeah, go hard for Justin Simmons. But honestly, this is going to be a really interesting year, especially with the cap being what it is. And anyone's available in the market, guys. So we'll be keeping our eyes out with that going on in free agency, especially leading up to the draft as well. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you everybody who tuned in here today. I know, Darius, you have to wrap up real quick. You have to go out to get the din to get the good sum. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone who watched. Mark my words, Allen Robinson gets a good QB, a Devontae Adams type season. Yeah, he's right. Allen Robinson is a top 3 wide receiver if paired up with a good quarterback. But with that being said, guys, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember that you can find us on social media, whether it's Instagram at Inside the Hashes, Twitter at Inside Hashes, on Facebook, where some of you might be watching this Inside the Hashes, the football group. You can also find all of our audio stuff, all of our podcasts, and all of our interviews on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Anchor. You can find all of our YouTubes on our website, InsideTheHashes.com, as well as on our YouTube channel, Inside the Hashes. And go ahead and join our Discord, where we are talking football at every level, from the draft, the free agency, to the pro, college, even high school level. We want to talk football just as much as you want to talk about it with us. For Avery Collins, for Darren Braxton, for Jerome Jones behind the glass, for Darius Reddick, who went out to get dinner. My name is Juan Pablo Guadin Camargo. We'll see you next time.